Welcome to Uncanny X Minutes, where we bring you the comics behind the movies. I'm producer James.
And I'm Sasha.
And today we're talking about X-Men First Class minutes 10 to 20.
Do you want to know what happens?
I do.
Magneto tortures a banker. Woke. Professor X picks up a girl in a bar with science. And Moira McTaggart infiltrates the Hellfire Club because she is neither Scottish nor a scientist on an island.
Which, once again, if that's just how you introduced her, no problem.
Yeah.
But last movie, we had a Scottish scientist, Moira McTaggart, we had already introduced. Fine, you have to recast. Absolutely. We're back in the 60s. Does she move to Scotland?
And then picks up an accent? Also, like, her age is not matching up. Like, none of this makes sense anymore.
I think the age is fine. If you can say Patrick Stewart is an older James McAvoy.
All of the ages are wrong. They're all wrong.
It's 40 years between the 60s and 2000s.
I don't know.
I think it's okay.
Okay.
But in this instance, it's fine. But the other elements of not being an American FBI agent.
Yeah.
Okay, sure.
Maybe she's undercover in the other movie.
Wouldn't it be great if that were actually true? It's not. But one of the things we do get, first off, a banker getting tortured. We talked about this is the scene that you would get in that other Magneto run. So go read that now, the Cullen Bunn one.
Yeah.
Professor X picking up a girl with science.
With anthropology.
He goes through like what makes a mutant a mutant. This movie has its cake and eats it too. Because later in the movie, we do get like, we need to make more mutants by causing a nuclear war.
It's very confusing.
Sebastian Shaw's plan.
Yeah.
But in the earlier part of the movie, we have, I think it's mostly kickstart is their explanation.
Yeah.
But in this part of the 10 minutes, it is Professor X being just like defining it as evolution.
Right.
As opposed to jump-started mutation. So I figured, why not talk about what the comics say?
Okay.
So Silver Age is Children of the Atom.
Yes, it's the nuclear energies.
Like a lot of the original X-Men have like fathers who worked at nuclear power plants or whatever. Like there was always like radiation adjacent backstories.
Yes.
So it was never outwardly said that's what it is, except for Children of the Atom.
Children of the Atom, yeah.
Like it is, but it wasn't like, oh, we are created because, like, it wasn't a thing we always said.
No.
If you fast forward to, was it Amazing Adventures with Beast, when he turns into the actual like blue hair, well, it was gray at the time, but blue haired Beast, he was trying to discover what made mutants mutants, and he discovered it, and it was like this liquid.
Yes.
And he drank it. Whatever. It was always like that was still kind of nebulous, but they ended up landing on the X gene.
Yes.
Which is just something mutants have. And it activates at puberty unless you're born with it.
Yeah.
Which
not always.
Not always, but the handful gets done, and there is this weird inconclusive fact that keeps jumping back and forth as to who passes the mutant gene. Some instances say it's the mother, some say it's the father.
Interesting.
The X-Men movies say it's the father.
Okay.
Because that was in X-Men 2.
Forgot about that.
Because Pyro's like, actually, they found that it's the father that passes the X gene, so it's actually your fault.
There you go.
I was like, ooh, take that.
I also think there was a period of time where it is the X gene. It's like genetic. I don't know if we said X gene at that point yet, but also your powers were kind of manifesting due to the stress that you were undergoing.
It like kickstarted it.
Yeah. So like there was who was it that was getting bullied? And I think it's a New Mutant.
All of them.
Yeah, but there's just one in particular where like he then his powers end up like preventing him from like feeling pain because he's like getting kicked and beat up after school. And so there was like, they don't really do that anymore. And Nightcrawler is his own mess that has issues with this continuity, which we'll get to.
Yeah.
But like, Yeah, that itself has also shifted a little bit, but we have settled more on like it's kind of random, though powers are kind of genetic. Like if you are a psychic, your mutant children have a high chance of being psychic, but not necessarily. Much more of like real kind of genetic cis like ancestry style like inheritance.
Yeah, there's a little bit. It's not a one for one. Like you couldn't breed mutants to try getting special powers,
right.
But it does seem that just the psychics,
especially the psychics,
are the ones where it seems to pass, or a higher likelihood that you will be psychic.
Yeah, I mean, yeah. You also have Dakin though.
In what way?
And doesn't he have claws?
Yeah, I guess that's true.
Right.
Because Laura is a clone,
right.
So she would have claws because of that.
Right, but Dakin is actually a son.
I get what you're saying.
Yeah.
There is one other recent one that has put a wrinkle in all this.
Uh-oh.
Who? Did you ever read Judgment Day, the Avengers X-Men Eternals crossover? From 2022.
I read it, but I don't know if I remember it. Go on.
So, there is an explicit link to the Celestials creating mutants.
I ignore this. I don't. I've read this, and I intentionally threw it out in the garbage.
So, it's basically in the Eternals world.
I hate the Eternals.
I do too, but you gotta listen.
Do I?
No, you don't. That's the beauty of all this. So there's the Eternals, and then there's the Deviants, and the Celestials created both. Whatever. The mutants are apparently some sort of offshoot of Deviants.
Yes, I remember. Well, kind of.
They share some DNA.
Yes, but then like the resolution, I did read this stupid book. The resolution of I'm so mad about it. I forgot this existed. I remember being angry about it when I read it and then wiped it from my memory. And now we have to talk about it. They got to the end where they were like, okay, they're actually not deviants. Like that was how that book concluded at the end. Like that was the resolution, I feel.
Here's a direct quote.
Yeah.
This is Prime Eternal Zurus talking to Storm. It says, "You mutants share some DNA with deviants, ? It's of little matter. Until a mutant triggers our physiological excess deviation response," which is how Eternals find deviants. "You're not deviants in the way that counts. You're just human." This, I feel, in my opinion, is going to be one of those, it was said once, and then we all ignored it.
Yeah. It's just a stupid crossover that, like, whatever. I hate that. I hate it so much.
I'm sorry.
No, it's okay. You're right. To
bring up such a sore spot.
I didn't remember it was even a sore. It's such a sore spot. I forgot it was a spot, and then we hit it. Yeah, it is going to become one of those. It's going to be one of those things that I'm glad we're talking about it. Yeah. So we're recognizing these moments in time that we would be talking about 20 years from now and be like, do you know that mutants were actually like made by the Celestials? Because this was said once in the Judgment Day crossover.
Yeah,
it was. I mean, like...
It's going to be forgotten, or they're going to retcon it or something. Actually, I don't even think it'll retcon it. I think it will straight up be something we don't even talk about. Like, there is this weird... I forget, was it Marauders? Like the Krakoa Marauders timeline or storyline where there was mutants, like, millions of years ago, and they went back in time? Did you read that one? It's one of those that, like, I was reading it, was like, I don't know what is happening right now. I don't know how to explain this to someone. I didn't even look it up for this because it's going to put my head in a knot.
But that is also true, though. Like, that's been in other comics with, like, really ancient mutants or whatever. So, like, that one I feel like is at least, like...
But this is, like, not even... It's not even, like, oh, Apocalypse was one of the first mutants, if not the first mutants. This is, like, time before time before time. Like, it was so far in the past that it's like Earth isn't even the same place anymore. It's so prehistory. It's before the dinosaurs.
Is this the one that ends up... Does this get tied up with how this is a major spoiler about the most recent Phoenix who was unexpected. If you do not know what I'm talking about, skip about 30 seconds. Okay? Is this when Echo gets the Phoenix?
No.
Okay, no.
This is an X-Men book.
This is just straight X-Men.
Yeah.
But I'm like wondering if it could maybe tie into that. I'm like
I
trying
don't
to
even
like
think it does.
No, it
No.
doesn't. Yeah. Okay.
We talked about it on an episode.
Yeah.
Phoenix, the
Yeah.
Echo being Phoenix. So
Yes, we did.
if you've been listening along, it's not quite a spoiler.
Yeah.
Anyway, so it's been evolving, but I think we've all landed on the X gene is just like evolution. Like
Yeah.
it just appears as a genetic mutation in people.
That is
so anybody can become a mutant.
It's the commonly understood practice in the Marvel universe right now if you're writing X-Men.
Right.
Barring Judgment Day. But like...
And I just love to give Stanley a shout out into mutants exist because he was lazy.
I love that.
He didn't want to come up with why people had powers,
And
so
he
they were
came
born
up
with it.
the best reason why people had powers.
Yeah.
Like, honestly.
My favorite thing about all of that, though, is when you see somebody who's starting to read X-Men or starting to watch X-Men, and they're like, why do people hate X-Men and not Avengers?
Yes.
Like, it is the, like, why are we hating the people who were born with powers as opposed to the people who, like, choose to have powers, like Tony Stark, or just accidentally have powers, like Spider-Man? And it's like, there shouldn't be a reason. But let's be honest, if it were real, like, if the Marvel Universe exists in real life, you would be fearful of the people who are just born with it, because the fact that anybody could be a mutant and could have all these dangerous powers is a scary thought, as opposed to like the rich white guy who just has a fancy suit of armor.
When people have questions like that, I love to point to this like awesome book, and I can't remember the author's name. It's like his initials are AA. The book is called Fear of Small Numbers, and it is talking about how that you can come to fear what is really a small percentage of a population.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, Arjun Appadurai. Yes. Sorry if I mispronounced that, but yeah, that is Fear of Small Numbers. And it is like, if you have questions about that, that's a great book to read and it'll help you understand it. But also, like, X-Men does talk about this in a way of just like, people are fearful that they are being replaced.
Yes.
It's not just about somebody who got into a science lab accident. That is something that you can understand, that you're like comprehending and is isolated and is not a threat to your like perceived dominance of this like planet.
We're not being replaced by Hulks.
Right. You can control who has Hulk serums. There are like government forms in place that can like manage that. But when
I
you're
think there's
talking
also
about
this
people,
like idea that they could be cured possibly.
Right, yeah.
You know, you could take away Iron Man's suit and he's just Tony Stark.
right. And so like, you know, the X-Men being this kind of fixation of like we are being replaced is such a huge part of why people in the Marvel universe do not like mutants. And I think it's so good, and I think to forget that is
that is the real life allegory with coming from a straight white man, the straight white man being afraid that our numbers are dwindling.
It's literally X-Men stuff.
Is
it's
X-Men
like
stuff.
it's literally X-Men stuff. We talked about this a long time ago. We're still talking about it. Like,
there's a
it's so
reason
good.
why it's still relevant.
Yes,
and
absolutely. Absolutely.
The other part of this 10 minutes that is exciting because we get our first look at the Hellfire Club.
I love the Hellfire Club.
Now, I didn't know this until I was doing the research that Hellfire Clubs are real.
Yes. I learned that so recently because of Stranger Things. I was at a comic convention and I didn't watch Stranger Things. I still haven't.
Yeah.
And
it's just the name of their D&D group.
Okay.
That's all it is.
Okay. And I saw somebody with like a Hellfire Club jacket and I was like, X-Men? Like my first thought.
I bought a shirt mostly because of the X-Men connotation, not because
But it's Stranger Things.
But it's a Stranger Things.
But then
shirt.
also, once I realized it was from Stranger Things, I read into that and I was like, oh, they're real.
Yeah.
That's why.
They're from the 18th century.
Which makes a lot of sense.
And it is exactly, it basically mirrors what the Hellfire Club is in the Marvel Universe, which is amazing. The other point of the creation of the Hellfire Club in the Marvel Universe is that Claremont and Byrne created it for the Dark Phoenix saga. And they were heavily influenced by the Avengers TV show, the one from the 60s, the British one.
I haven't seen this.
And most people haven't. There was that terrible 90s movie that Uma Thurman was in,
No, nothing.
Okay, that was my first introduction to the Avengers.
Wow.
It's the reason why the Avengers movie is Marvel's The Avengers and not just The Avengers. If you ever look, it's always Marvel Studios The Avengers or Marvel's The Avengers.
Okay.
So the old British TV show, it's a spy show that follows a man and a woman who are spies. They end up having to infiltrate a Hellfire Club that has been created. And Mrs. Peel, the lead, it's what's her name? Diana Rigg is the lead of that one. And she infiltrates, and she is wearing an outfit that is very reminiscent of a Black Queen.
Got it. That's very cool.
The episode is called A Touch of Brimstone.
Okay. Oh, wow.
She's got spiked collar.
Literally
It's just literally
the same.
a Black Queen outfit. Yeah. So they took this and ran with it and created the Hellfire Club for the Marvel Universe.
It's perfect. It's the Hellfire Club, very cool because like it is the foundation of like this kind of, I don't know, capitalist corporatist
hedonistic.
Also hedonistic. That is a big part. Like when the movie shows like all the women in lingerie, that is not an addition for the movie. That is part of the Hellfire Club.
Sure is.
That is why the White Queen, Emma Frost, outfit is the way that it is. Like that's part of,
especially the early stuff.
Yes.
I like that they've changed it as time goes on and just put her in like couture and just like high fashion, but always in white.
Yeah. But
early on, a lot of corsets.
Well, because she does like, so Emma Frost eventually leaves the Hellfire Club, kind of. Let's not talk about the Hellfire Trading Company right at this moment. But like, it wasn't originally for mutants. It was just a Hellfire Club of like very rich people with like, and that was, you know, that could be private. And they're ruled by a council or
an inner circle.
Well, originally it was a council.
Okay.
And then it became the inner circle.
All right. And
the inner circle has these representations of like chess pieces. There's the kings, the queens.
It's like the kings and queens are up and it's black and white.
Yeah.
Black queen, white queen, black queen, white king, black king. And then underneath them are the rooks and the bishops.
Yes, the bishops in particular. And like these are like their kind of reporting structures, weirdly. And it is very corporate. Like a lot of the people that are part of this system are business people that are billionaires or whatever. The Starks were associated with the Hellfire Club.
This is another one of those instances where you're going to list. I could list characters for the next 5 minutes.
Yeah, we could just be like rich, like people who had rich parents in the Marvel Universe, like the Nepo babies. Their parents are probably involved in the Hellfire Club.
Sebastian Shaw is one of those Nepo babies.
Yes, he absolutely is. Sebastian Shaw is who turns the Hellfire Club from its normal day-to-day operations as just like this insidious club for the billionaires on the planet to a insidious club for the billionaire mutants on the planet. True. There's quite a bit of story when he is introduced with the Hellfire Club where he is hiding the fact that he is a mutant, but is aligning himself with mutants in the Hellfire Club to consolidate his power. Emma Frost being one of them. Tessa being another.
Yep. So the original lineup from the Dark Phoenix saga, you've got Sebastian Shaw as the Black King. You've got Emma Frost as the White Queen. You've got Donald Pierce as the White Bishop, and he is a cyborg.
Yes.
That will pop up later in the movies.
Yeah.
You've got Harry Leland as the Black Bishop. You've got Jason Wingard or Mastermind. So Mastermind was in the original Brotherhood of Evil Mutants, but he doesn't have the Jason Wingard persona until this. Later, they do get Jean Grey in there, but this is the Phoenix as Jean Grey, as a Black Queen, Tessa, and Warhawk. Later, Selene shows up, but
that's
whatever.
Later.
That's later. That's another major. Other than that, it is like we swap a bunch. Like a bunch of people end up coming in and out of the different positions, but that's like when you're first introduced, and then Selene is another big one.
She's this huge part of it that like we'll get into, but basically like it is a way for people to exert like political and financial power. It is a literal shadowy organization with all of its faults, and in addition to make it generally titillating, it's like an open space for like any sort of like sexual fantasies on top of everything else, right? It's what is the Star Wars a den of
scum and villainy?
No, scum and villainy. Sebastian Shaw, through machinations, of which there are many,
because that's usually his deal.
Yes.
I mean, I guess in this movie that is too. That is what he's trying to do. He's moving and shaking. His mutant power is not his highlight.
No, like he has the ability to absorb kinetic energy, and then like, I don't know,
he gets stronger by it. I think in the comics, like, I haven't done a deep dive, and I'm waiting for when we do it for
till
here.
we do it. Yeah, but
he does absorb energy. That is definitely part of it, but that's not what his deal is.
Not why we don't care about the fact that he can do that. We care about the ability to like run this ship,
which is also kind of like Emma's deal too.
Yes,
like she's more interesting with her powers because her powers are useful in the manipulation.
Yes,
and that's what kind of bugs me a little bit about this version of Emma is there's no strength.
Yeah.
There's no real manipulation. It's like, I guess I'll manipulate whatever.
Well, I think that's actually kind of why I like when Emma Frost is running the Hellfire Club or whatever iteration. They have some changes of names for the Hellfire Club.
Yeah.
But ultimately, they're all kind of referring to the same thing. When Emma Frost is running it, it gives you that sense of like, everybody who participates in the inner circle for the Hellfire Club are constantly jockeying for position.
Oh yeah.
And
always
you want to feel like it's a room of sharks that are like barely keeping the balance together to run this operation.
I'm gonna let you be king for now.
That is 100% like every meeting of the inner circle should feel and does. And
like there's a knife at your back at any given moment.
Right. And that's kind of how it's supposed to be played out. In this episode, this movie, this 10 minutes,
this adaptation of it,
there isn't like, without getting into Shaw specifically, and I kind of understand why they chose him for this, but like, because he's the most frequent king, but like, he seems too in control. It feels like he's like the tippy top bad guy and everybody's his kind of lackeys.
Yeah.
Like you were saying, Emma Frost's depiction here is weak and it doesn't feel.
It's the same with it's another version of the Magneto Mystique setup.
Yeah.
Where it's like, why are you taking one of the most powerful women in the Marvel universe, or at least in the X-Men sphere, and chaining them to a man?
Yeah.
Ugh.
I know. It's just like it's they're just not given the room. I just think it would be more interesting if like there was tension on his side too, because it makes you feel, it gives depth of character.
Yeah.
Because if somebody is able to keep Emma Frost at bay while she is actively trying to
take you down,
yeah, and yet you still manage to make it all work. That says something about a character that I will like respect, right?
I think the way you fix it is to give her motivations that align with his. And it's like, well, I'm going to let you take charge because what you're doing is also what I want right now. But as soon as our goals are no longer aligned, watch your back.
Right. And I do think that's like the fun part of the Hellfire Club. Like the Hellfire Club is always in danger of like, being
new management
Shinobi Shaw, without getting into it,
right? The children,
yes,
they took it all over for a while,
for all of the
most recently Kingpin,
yes, also,
but like on the side of mutants,
right? Because of oh my god, what's her name? His wife,
Typhoid Mary, yeah, because she's a mutant.
Yes, she is. That's why he's at all the Krakoa galas.
He's at the Krakoa galas, but he took it over for them. Like he's an ally recently,
which is really funny because when Kingpin was like running New York and they put the
Devil's Reign,
they were not on the same side. Well,
no,
Typhoid Mary changed that, I suppose.
Yeah, this happened after that.
Yeah. It's great.
But yeah, no, I mean, Magneto's been in there. Storm's been in there.
Yes, you've had situations where the Hellfire Club is post shifts towards being more like mutant friendly or mutant led. Like that they've teamed up or like had similar goals as to the X-Men. Like there are like points in time where the X-Men is fighting the Hellfire Club. They injure the Black King, and they all like agree to just go home and not tell the cops because like nobody wants that mess like in their business. It's so wild. Like it's such a weird, and it's a very, so it's like cool because it's like it's a villain factory, right? Like a bunch of people could be running the Hellfire Club, whatever, generally their motives. That like is not a government exactly, right? Like they sometimes influence governments, but like
if that's what they need.
It's not a government.
There are multiple Hellfire Clubs around the world.
That's true too.
And there's always a Lord Imperial, or maybe not always, but there is a Lord Imperial that is in charge of all of the different Hellfire Clubs. It's not usually we're only focused on the New York one.
100%. Yes, this is mostly what we're talking about, the New York one.
This was in Vegas. What's that about? No, I'm kidding. I'm kidding. I don't remember this storyline, but just based on just Wikipedia, because you can't go too deep.
Yeah.
Otherwise, you run out of time. But apparently, Sebastian Shaw has been a Lord Imperial, but so has Sunspot.
Yes. I have read that.
That sounds familiar.
That is true.
But I don't remember when that was.
It's like, I feel like it's around Utopia.
Okay.
Yeah.
That sounds about right.
Yeah. We don't work in real time units here. We work in X-Men arc.
Sure does.
All that to say, like, yes, technically it was set up as like there's multiple clubs or whatever, but
we really just focus on one.
We don't care about that. It's the New York one. They're like when in the Krakoa era, it's the Hellfire Trading Company, and that is technically like within the sphere of Krakoa.
Yes,
right. Like
that's I guess for that one, I think it's more of a name than anything because all the mutants are there. So the New York branch is kind of already on Krakoa now, and the Hellfire Trading Company is what's in charge of one part of Krakoa is medicine that cures anything.
Yes.
And the trading company is what's in charge of distributing that to the world, including
both the above board and the below board,
the black market.
Yeah.
Yep. Because that's how you get work done.
Yeah. I get what you're saying, but they still have the same formats with the kings and the queens, and like it counts. Like I guess like that's actually worth talking about just briefly is like the Hellfire Club has like rules, but when used actually in the fiction, like by writers, it's like kind of just the idea of it. Like I feel like it's a strangely not bound like in the same way of like other kind of organizations like
the Thieves Guild,
or like Hydra even, like where there are like people and like there's just a place and like whatever. With the Hellfire Club, it can kind of be whatever you want it to be. It could be a trading company, it could be a corporation. I guess that's true. You could be this, like it's a little bit amorphous because like the other clubs, presumably that haven't been taken over by mutants, which is basically the New York one is the only one I'm familiar with that has been, like they're just regular rich people influencing their government, which is a thing that like is a normal thing in our reality even, unfortunately. So like it's less sexy. They're not really doing anything, right? The only one that's actually doing anything is this one.
I do like in Krakoa, they have the Quiet Council, which is just like a bunch of like the leaders that decide whatever. But they're broken up into 4 teams, essentially: summer, spring, winter, fall. And the spring is the Hellfire Trading Company. So it started off as just Sebastian Shaw and Emma Frost as the White Queen and the Black King. And they had an open seat, which later is sort of like a mystery who they're going to put there, but it ends up being the Red Queen, which I don't think we've had a Red Queen.
No, that was new. That point,
so that was new.
Yeah.
And it was Kitty Pryde, then Kate Pryde.
Yeah.
So that's fun because then she ends up
fun.
But she ends up running the Marauders, who rescue mutants who can't get to Krakoa.
Right, that their governments have prevented them from leaving.
That sort of is in the Hellfire element of things.
It is.
It is sort of the black market, like under...
Pirate. She literally runs a pirate ship.
Literally is running a pirate ship.
Yeah, it's great. Like, Marauders is cool. Yeah, it wasn't my favorite book, which is unfortunate because it had the potential to be my favorite book.
Yes.
So that's the only kind of bummer kind of issue about it. It lost a little bit of steam, but the concept is so good. It's worth a couple reads.
Especially in the early stuff. It's when they're messing with Shaw.
Yeah.
It is that like backstab. Like it is a House of Cards.
Yes.
And Marauders is the title that focuses on that House of Cards.
It's very fun. And then I think, after a little bit of time, it tapers off a little, and then it's like
it's hard when you switch writers.
Got so much stuff. Yeah. Not that it was bad. I just mean it's like
the vibe changed.
What it was about was a little different. So that's how all these books are, to be quite honest.
Right.
It's all vibe shifts.
So yeah. Basically, it's almost like an Illuminati but the Illuminati's a different thing in this books.
Yeah, it's like if the Illuminati got taken over by ambitious mutants that were like gray, morally gray.
Yeah.
Yeah, it rules. I mean, it's very similar to what's in this movie.
That part is not bad.
Yeah.
It is just like the inter-club.
The people in the club. Yeah,
relationships are not quite. It is just Shaw's the boss and everyone else is a lackey, and that's all there is to it. I think there's even... I can't quite remember it in this way. I feel like later in the movie, there is a time where Emma Frost could take over, but doesn't.
Okay.
Or just like... It's just more of a lackey than anything. And it's like, okay, it's fine.
That's a bummer.
Sure.
Yeah.
All right. And I think that's wrapping up this episode about X-Genes and Hellfire Clubs.
Yeah.
I've been producer James.
And I'm Sasha.
And we'll see you for the next 10.